looking ahead to the Browns, this defensive front, particularly Garrett and Clowney, what sort of challenges do they face?
Yeah, they're about, they're one of the elite fronts in the league. They've certainly proved it so far through the first 4 games and the last 2 weeks in particular. And you're talking about 2 former number 1 draft picks up front, and then I think what they also did, they added Tack McKinley too, who's a former first-round draft pick, and Tack's first year was kind of my first year in the NFL, so I did a lot of work on him, and I think they've done a really nice job adding pieces to that front. Malik McDowell is a former high draft pick that's playing at a high level. Malik Jackson, that group of guys, and I think they've done a really good job of adding pieces to that team. I think Andrew Berry's doing an outstanding job there with Kevin, and I think that that's certainly the strength of their football team. And Miles is as good as it gets, on the edge in the NFL.
You had Zeke and Josh Jacobs in the last few weeks. Now you got Chubbs and Hunt. How did they prepare you for Chubbs and Hunt?
Well, what they all have in common is they're elite runners. And Kareem Hunt, he's actually from where I'm from, in Northeast Ohio. So I've known a lot about him since high school. I know his high school coach really well, Matt Duffy. And, so I've known about Kareem for a long time, played at Toledo, and, he certainly is an outstanding runner. Outstanding runner, can catch the ball too. And then Nick Chubb is just, he's such a powerful runner, and he's got speed too. As much as he's a power runner, this guy can really run too. And so it's a really, really good tandem. Right now, it's as good a tandem as anybody in the NFL. And I think that, we played Pollard and Zeke. We played Gibson, McKissick. Last week, Jacobs, Kenyon Drake and Peyton Barber. And what it tells you is that the NFL is loaded with good players. And these 2 guys are as good as it gets on contact. That's what the data will tell you. Yards after contact is a real strength of this team, especially in the fourth quarter. And a lot of that has to do with how good their runners are, and a lot of it has to do with how good their O-line and tight ends are. And their fullback, Andy Janovich, I was with him in Denver, and he's an outstanding player. So there's a lot of good run game design with that group, with Bill Callahan and Kevin Stefanski, and they're a tough cover for sure.
They had the running game going with Austin Eckler last week, but what do you think the guys behind them are doing, like Roundtree and Justin? How do you think they're performing this year?
Yeah, I thought Larry was a real presence in the game the other night. I thought he had a couple really quality runs. Thought he had really good ball security. And I think what we're trying to do, I thought Justin the same way, I think what we're trying to do is find the balance besides Austin so that we can really have that healthy rotation. And then Josh Kelly's still competing too. So I feel like we're finding that sweet spot with that group and featuring their talents, and then really trying to feed off our O-line, tight ends, fullbacks, to create, a run game that suits us and that can attack our opponent. And I really like the way we finished the game in the fourth quarter, and I felt like Austin was fantastic.
Are you guys expecting Ryan Smith to be activated this week, or still to be determined?
To be determined. He's definitely going to practice this week, and will be full in practice this week. So I'm excited to see him. And like I said, we're going to try and keep that window alive to fully evaluate him, but he's healthy. And now we're just making sure that we get a full evaluation of him to determine, his status.
And Chris Harris, is he trending to play this week, or sort of where's he at?
Yeah, I think so. He was out there today. I know that feels even stronger than he did last week. And last week he did practice. He was in pads and stuff like that. So I feel like he's getting close, and just barring any setbacks, would anticipate him being out there for practice full all week long.
What Baker Mayfield? How is it the challenge he presents maybe different from what you've seen so far this season?
Could you repeat that?
The challenge with Baker Mayfield.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Is it different than what you've had this year? Or how does he fit?
No, I mean, I think I'm a huge fan of Baker Mayfield's game, and I think that since he's become the quarterback of that team, their win-loss record speaks for itself. The fact that they went on the road, won a playoff game last year, and since he's become the starting quarterback there, things have changed, and that's what he did at Oklahoma. And I think he's an elite competitor. I think this guy can really create. He's an outstanding thrower of the football. This guy can really drive the ball, and he's not a tall guy, but he feels bigger than that. I think he's a little bit like Russell that way, where they're not tall guys, but they feel bigger. He can really drive the football. He can really make plays outside the rhythm and timing of the play. But then, he can really play within the offense too. I mean, he can play from the pocket. He's really good on the keeper play-pass game. And, I just think that this guy is an outstanding player, and he's a real engine for that team.
Brandon, Any injuries from Monday's game, or did you guys practically come out of it?
We came out of it pretty healthy, and so today was more of a walkthrough for us, just because of the tight turnaround. So we wanted to have more of a jog through to kind of regenerate our football team. But I think you guys will be able to see more tomorrow. But we were able to get out of that game pretty healthy, which was a real positive for us.
Do you guys have a timeline at all on Brian Bulaga? He's eligible to get back to high school play at this point because he's missed 3 games.
Yeah, no timeline yet. I think that we're going to know more soon, before the bye for sure. And so we'll have some information there before the bye for sure.
Receiving wise, they're missing Landry.
Mhm.
I mean, all the talks about Beckham, but their tight ends and Higgins look to be a little underrated.
Yeah, Joe, I think you make an excellent point. Number one, I'm a huge Jarvis Landry fan. I mean, he's an outstanding player. When they traded for him, I thought that was a really good trade because he's kind of an engine guy too. He's a real tone setter. He can do a lot of jobs and great target. Really any part of the field, but real toughness. He's a creator, outstanding thrower of the football. And I think what they've done a nice job of in building that offense is with him out. There's some young receivers that I've got a lot of respect for. I did a lot of work on Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's got a lot of traits physically that translate to the league. We did a lot of work on the young receiver Schwartz from Auburn, who can fly, and so got a pretty good inventory on those guys. And then Higgins, like you said, Higgins has always been kind of an underrated part of their team. But I think the other thing that makes them difficult to cover is they've got 3 tight ends that can all catch the football. They got Joku, as a former first-round pick, and when you guys see him come off the bus, I mean, he's a prototypical looking tight end. I mean, he's fantastic. And then, Austin Hooper is a really, really good tight end. I played against him when I was in Chicago my first year in the league, and he was in Atlanta, and he's an outstanding player. And the way that Kevin wants to play offense, it's just a great fit for them. And then Harrison Bryant is kind of like Steven Anderson for us. He does a lot of different jobs well for them and gives them the ability to kind of play the game the way they want to play it. So and that's not even talking about their O-line, and I just think they've built a complete team, and you're seeing a team that plays that way.
Just going up against the offenses that you guys have gone up against so far, Cowboys, Raiders, Chiefs, now you're going up against the Browns, obviously another really good offense, and different in different ways. How much do you like having that challenge for your defensive scheme, for your defensive players early on this season, to have those tests early on against great offenses that are all a little bit different?
Yeah, Daniel, I think it's really good points because the styles are different. But what makes the NFL so special is the challenge. And, Cleveland is a really good offensive football team because they are a complete offense. They're an outstanding running team, outstanding throwing team. They throw the ball a lot of different ways. They run it a lot of different ways. They have a variety of targets. And I think what that challenge is, Daniel, is it challenges you to play team defense, where you can't just isolate on one thing or one person. And that brings out the best in you. And I think that that's why the NFL, people love watching it because the challenges are real. And so this team is going to force, the best out of us. And that's why they have such a good record. They're a few plays away from being 4-0. And they certainly have played like it.
Brandon, Joey Bosa was saying they didn't feel like they were playing like the 32nd rushing defense in the NFL. To kind of see it come together and Monday night to slow that rushing attack, is it kind of every week's going to be different with the game plan that, you might have some yards, but this week you probably won't?
Yeah, I think Gilberto, you hit on a good point, is that each week has a life of its own, and that's what we really try and emphasize here. And we felt like going into last week's game that Vegas would try to run the football, especially with Josh coming back, and that would kind of create more balance for the football team. And so I was just really proud of the way our guys responded. The Kansas City game was a different kind of game plan for us, but in the Dallas game, you guys were there. We did not perform well in the run game in that game, and you got to take full ownership of that. So I think for us to be able to really focus on that aspect last week and to see it translate gives our guys confidence. And then now what we got to do is, treat the Cleveland game like it has a life of its own, because what we did last week against Vegas does not apply to this week. And so, this running attack is much different, and it requires our full attention for sure.
What did you think about Drew Tranquil's game, having to step in for Kenneth Murray on Monday?
Yeah, Drew Tranquil was fantastic in the game. He played a really, really good football game. He was a commander, a connector out there for us. Thought he tackled well. He was physical within the core. Outstanding blitz game for him. Had a couple, 2 or 3 really good rushes that helped us. And then he was where he was supposed to be in coverage. He was real. You kind of felt his presence out there in pass coverage too, his range. So he's a complete linebacker for us, and we're excited to continue down this road with him until K9 gets back. Kaiser and Drew, are going to be holding down the fort, and then we got some young guys here that are competing too. But I thought that those 2 guys in the game gave us a real chance. Kaiser and Drew both were outstanding in the game, and that's the way they played all through camp, which is exciting. They've been that consistent, and I thought that they both played well together the other night.
Do you feel like you guys have kind of turned the corner? The first 2 games, it seems like the defense was missing a lot of tackles, and it feels like the last 2 games you guys have tackled well, especially against the Raiders. Do you feel like you guys defensively have kind of turned a corner on that?
Yeah, Fernando, excellent points. I did not think we tackled well in the Dallas game in particular. That was the game that we were disappointed in our tackling. The Washington game, we felt like we were pretty good. But it's such a big aspect of the game. And what I think what tackling does, when you miss tackles, I would challenge you guys to watch the TV copy of a game. When you miss a tackle, like just see the response, see the energy of the opposing sideline or the opposing crowd. It just creates a lot of energy. And, oftentimes when you miss a tackle, it's because there's a lot of space in the tackle. And so I think when we've tackled well, there hasn't been as much space in the tackle, and we've had more guys at the football. And I think that that's a good sign of team defense. When we haven't tackled as well, we haven't had as many guys at the football, and our technique's been a little bit off. So it's such an emphasis. And with this team, you have to be at your best because they have so many guys that can do something with the football. The runners are fantastic, but then you got Odell Beckham, who's like an incredible creator with the football. I mean, this guy with the football, I mean, he can do anything with the ball in his hands, and the quarterback's a tough guy to tackle. He's got a really strong lower body. He's kind of sudden, and so we're going to have to tackle well against this team for sure.
Brandon, you mentioned after the game that Derwin is playing 5 positions.
Yeah.
Like star money, safety, but what are the other ones?
Yeah, so at safety, you can play like to the passing strength, what we would say the strong safety or the weak safety, which we would call free safety. They're different positions we play right and left a lot of the times, but where you're located within our scheme, they're different. And so, you can say that that's 2 positions. And then we also have him play a role within 6DB defenses called the X, which is kind of a hybrid outside linebacker job for him. And so that's where you get 5. And so star, money, X, and then both safety positions. And so it's a tall job description. And he's one of the few guys in the entire world that can do it. And he's also our signal caller. And so the weight of that is real. And like I said, I'm sensitive to that because if Derwin James were just doing 2 jobs out of 5, it would be easier for him. And you may see more production from him, but it wouldn't be as good for our team. Him playing 5 roles for us helps us be the best defense and the best team that we can be. And that's why he's amazing.
So when he's playing the X role, does that supplant the money position or the star position, or is there different?
Yeah, so like in certain packages, we'll have 2 linebackers in the game, Mac and money. You'll have a star, which would be somebody else, and then the X is kind of what Derwin would be, which is that hybrid, outside rusher, money type player. But we call him the X because there's another linebacker involved that's playing money. So it's a 6DB variation for us.
Hey, Coach, would you describe the reason you chose a model our way, and then how you've seen that expressed thus far through the season?
Yeah, I really believe in the power of team, and I really believe that you do things together. And I think when you talk our way, that when I got here, when you're trying to establish something, you want to establish something that's meaningful to everybody within the organization, not just players, not just coaches. And, our way for me is relationships and competition. And what that does is it puts the emphasis and it puts the focus on you, and it doesn't put the focus on something else. It puts the focus on everyone within the organization because everybody plays a really important part in becoming the team and the organization that you're capable of being. And I think that no matter who it is, man or woman, no matter their role, they can really identify with that sort of mission statement. And I feel like when you have things going, when you break down or you want to be known for something as a team, I think that our way is something that really brings people together and that people can identify with and that you can get behind. And so it's just a way of bringing people together and knowing what we're fighting for.
Austin mentioned that on Thursdays you do a full team meeting where you go over the game plans for all 3 phases with all the players.
Mhm.
You mentioned that it created accountability, but is that why you do that? So there is the accountability on both sides, or is there another sort of motivation there for having that meeting?
Yeah, I really believe in shared purpose, and I think that when the offense understands what's going on the other side of the football, there's more purpose to the plan, and there's more ownership and buy-in from people. And I really believe that in 2021, it's important to bring people together because I think you play with more purpose when you know what's happening around you and that you're transparent about what's happening. And I think what that does is there's nowhere to hide, whether things are good or bad. You know where the ownership is, you know where the accountability is. And I think that what we try to do is create real transparency so that we can have high standards for performance, where everybody's accountable for their performance. And I think, when you go into a game, everybody knows what it's going to take. And I feel like not speaking in generalities, when we go into those meetings, we're not trying to be general. We're trying to be specific. Because that's what can happen sometimes is you're really not saying anything. We want to be specific so that these players understand that there's a lot that goes into these games. And the specifics of it are what players love. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me what we need to do and how we need to do it and why it's important. And I think that by bringing everybody within the organization together, you'll have a better team whenever you play.
And coming out of that Cowboys game, you feel that's an easier way to communicate with everybody, their purpose and what they need to do to make those changes, to correct those changes?
For sure. And I think like just last week, for instance, after the 2 games of some procedural issues, the way we practiced last week with our operation offensively, there was more urgency in practice. There was more ownership for people, and you could see it unfolding. And our defensive players were able to see Jalen Guyton, Jared Cook, Keenan Allen. You were able to see these guys do it the way it should be done. You could see it. Offense could see our defense in the run game. They could see like, hey, yes, there it is. This is what he's talking about. And that's what people want. They want to know that you're working on things, that you're fixing things that aren't going right, and that you're taking accountability because we're not perfect. I think a big thing about pro ball and just life in general is taking ownership when it doesn't go well, because it's easy to take ownership when it does. It's much more challenging to take the ownership when it doesn't go well and not hiding from that because we're not perfect people. And I think that it's a lot easier life to live when you're willing to make mistakes and own up to them.
We've heard a lot of the word belief and trust here the last couple of weeks with this team.
Mm-hmm.
As a first-year coach, in trying to facilitate that, how much is that aided by the fact that you're having success on the field?
It's much easier to create trust and belief when it's going well, but easier doesn't mean better. I think no matter, Jeff, how it's going, well or not, I think what you have to be able to do is tell the truth, because sometimes you can have success, and I talk about that illusion, and I use that word illusion because I think it's powerful, because we all know what an illusion is. It's something that's really not there, and so it can happen both ways. And I think what's awesome about the NFL is that we have the film that can tell us the truth. Okay, the film mostly tells us the truth of what happened. And that's where our focus needs to be, is on the film and on our preparation and on the things that really translate to our success. And I think that that's what creates the trust and the belief, is just that consistency in our performance and not being lulled into a trap of one wave or another, whether it's low or high. We're not really focused on that. We're just focused on the truth, and hopefully we can continue to do that around here.
You followed that organization for a long time. In terms of what DePodesta and Stefanski and Andrew do in terms of analytics, into different things. Is there anything you've adopted from them into how you do things?
Well, I know that Tom Telesco has got a really good relationship with Andrew Barry. I know Kevin Stefanski. I wouldn't say I know him well, but I know him well enough. Two of my really good friends worked with him in Minnesota for a long time because he was in Minnesota for a long time. So I have a lot of respect for him, and I've certainly read a lot about Paul and his journey through professional sports, whether it's baseball or football. I think the one thing that I know about being from Cleveland and then just observing Andrew and Kevin from afar, the one thing I respect is that they're really good people. They're really good men, and I think they're really smart. And I think that when you're a good person and you got high capacity, that you can take things a long way. And from what I understand, that's a big factor in their success. That's usually a winning formula no matter what you're in. And then what they've done is which you have to do in professional football, professional sports is, they've drafted well. They've drafted well and they've onboarded quality players that fit what they're trying to do. And they've got a lot of really good players on their team. When you look at their team, they've got a lot of really good players that are clearly listening to those coaches and those personnel people. And they're doing things the right way because it's not just the winning and losing, it's how they're winning. It's how they're winning. They're playing the game the right way.